Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and Tim Alexander, writer, producer, director of the clip Diary of a Tired Black Man. And every line's lit up already, Tim. They must remember when you was with us the first time. You provoked a lot of conversation. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I guess I did, huh?
Well, for those of you that didn't hear before, why? Let me play to you 3 minutes of the clip, Diary of a Tired Black Man, that now is become a movie. He's doing a full feature movie. We're going to talk about it and the issue of a tired black man. But first, listen to the clip from Tim Alexander.
Tell me that ain't James rolling up with a white girl.
Oh, hell no. Oh, that's up.
I know you're not going to let him disrespect you like that.
Just wait here. I'm gonna go and get her.
You want me to get her for you?
No, it's okay.
Oh, hell no. He's going to kiss the in your driveway.
Oh, no. Now that's really up.
He only brought her over here to piss you off. He came to pick up Lena, but he should have came by himself. Bastard.
What?
What? What's up with the white chick?
What does that have to do with me picking up Lena? Is she ready?
You weak punk. You had to go and get a white girl? What's wrong? You couldn't find a sister that would lay down and let you walk over her?
What are you trying to say, Tanya?
She's saying you a weak-ass nigga.
A weak-ass nigga?
Yeah, weak-ass nigga. Hate black men like you. Too weak to deal with a strong black woman, so you gotta go find a weak white girl to walk all over her. And spend her nights with your in her mouth.
Tell him, girl.
Weak black man, huh? Say, Butcher, do you have a man right now?
No, I'm tired of you weak-ass niggas.
And you, Linda?
No?
What about you, Joy?
Yeah, white man.
A white man?
Yeah, she had to go get a white man. Because all y'all niggas is out dating white women and ain't none left.
How long were we married, Tanya?
4 years.
Have you ever noticed me to be attracted to a white woman?
No,
And how long you know me before we got married?
3 years.
3 years. In this time, have you ever known me to be with any white girl?
No.
No. This house here, who bought it? Let me answer it for you, Tanya. This house we live in, I bought it, and all the furniture in it. And now, I live in a bigger one. Let's not even talk about the car and the monthly alimony check. You don't even remember the last time you walked. And you and your angry little crew are gonna call me a weak black man? Why? Just because I like to come back home to a peaceful house at the end of the day? Instead of going back to a drama like I had with you for 4 years? So you think a black man is weak just because he doesn't feel like fighting every single night? If this woman here, white or any other color, if she can bring me some balance in my life, I really don't care about you and your little angry crew are saying. But let me set the record straight. I am not a weak black man. I am a tired black man. Tired of dealing with angry black women like you and you. Now where's my daughter?
Well, that was the clip that ignited a firestorm here in April. And Tim Alexander said, if you didn't like that, I got an hour and a half movie I'm going to make out of it now. But
That's it.
now, Tim, the setting of that is the black man breaks up with his wife. He's going with a white girl. He comes to visit his daughter.
Yes.
And he brings the white girl who stays in the car while he goes. And we're hearing the conversation of his ex-wife and her girlfriends, I assume, in the living room.
Right.
What is the movie? A longer version of that?
The movie actually deals with a much bigger problem. I'm calling it Angry Black Woman Syndrome, ABS.
Angry Black Woman Syndrome.
And it's a repeated pattern of behavior.
You don't get enough, do you? Go ahead.
Well, you know, the white woman was someone he was dating at the time, but that's not really the main issue. The issue is this woman had this man 1,000%. He was there for her in every way.
This black woman.
The black woman that he was married to.
All right.
She chose to give him nothing but grief because of her anger from her past. Her anger and her frustration because her father wasn't there for her as a child. Her anger and her frustration because her girlfriends and her mother and her aunts going through the changes they went through with men. So when she had a good man, she couldn't appreciate it because she thought he was a weak punk because he didn't hit and he didn't abuse her mentally and emotionally. So she took advantage, and he finally got tired, and he left.
So your feeling and projected through this movie is that a lot of black men end up with other than black women, white women, Latino women, Asian women, whatever, because angry black women drive them away.
Yeah, even if they end up with another black woman, the woman that had him initially lost him because of her anger.
All right.
Whatever color woman they end up with.
Why do they end up in your clip with white women? Is there a fascination with white women?
No. What happened in that original clip, it was never really supposed to be a movie. It was something I wrote because an angry black woman I was dating, one day she said to me, you know what? You need to go get you a white woman. I'm like, excuse me? You need to get you a white woman. You can't deal with a strong black woman. And I said, you know what? You're right. I can't deal with a strong black woman. Bye. I didn't get a white woman, but I left her. So because of that.
But did you really mean you couldn't deal with or were you being sarcastic when you said you couldn't deal with a strong black woman?
I was talking about her because she waved this banner of strong black woman as a defense for her anger. Strong black woman generally means angry black woman. I've not seen someone say, I'm a strong white woman, I'm a strong Asian woman, I'm a strong Hispanic woman.
Well, maybe they don't have to. Maybe because the strength required by black women is different than the strength required by others.
You know, I can see a certain aspect of that, but it requires strength for all of us in today's society.
All right.
You know, and generally when a woman's saying she's a strong black woman, she's clubbing you on the head with that.
So how do you be a strong black woman and in some cases have enough strength for the whole family, including the man and the children, and not demonstrate in a way that people feel they're being clubbed over the head? How do you do that?
You know, it takes a lot of strength to keep your peace in adversity. It takes a lot of strength to overcome the bad hand that life has dealt you and still be of a gracious nature. And, you know, it is difficult, you know, but that is, to me, real strength to keep your goodness throughout the adversity that life has dealt you and not just have a seething anger that you punish people with. And then your reasoning is because I've been through this, I've been through that, you know, and I'm strong, I'm not taking your crap. You know.
So you think a lot of it is they bring baggage from their past,
absolutely.
Their family, bad relationships. And
it starts with lack of fathers. And I'm trying to bring attention to the problem because, yes, men need to raise their children. The men don't know how to be men, and the women don't know how to accept love from a man because they have no examples. And so the young women nowadays are growing up angry, and they don't know why, and no one's identified it. I've spoken to psychologists and psychiatrists, and they're saying you have absolutely found something that definitely needs to be addressed.
Well, I think you're going to get addressed because we got a whole lot of calls for you, and we're going to talk about it. Let's go to Seattle first. Let's go to Barbara in Seattle. I'm going to give a black woman, I assume black. She may not be black, but I'm going to give a woman a chance to deal with Tim Alexander first. Barbara, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton in Seattle, Washington.
Good morning, Reverend Al. I hope you're having a great day.
Good.
And to Tim, so glad to have him on. I'm the mother of 4 black sons.
Thank you.
And one is married black.
So 3 are not married to black women?
No, and the one that's married black is married Ethiopian.
So none of them married African-American women?
No.
And are you African-American woman?
Yes, I am. I'm Creole.
Now, what do you think caused that?
Well, you know, I've talked with my boys at length when they were younger, and I just told them, inherit the world. You don't have to marry in your race. You have to marry for love and happiness, wherever you find that. 2 of my sons live in Japan. One is married white, and he's got the most troublesome wife out of the whole family. No dad and bringing her past along. 2 daughters, one's married white, one's married Caribbean black. So my family's the United Nations. But I also taught them that the...
Well, I want to take this slow because you are an unusual woman calling. So can I hold you after the break, Barbara? We'll be right back. Tim Alexander, Diary of a Tired Black Man. And he don't mean from working. He means from getting worked. He said they beat us over the head, club us down, don't know how to act, bring all your baggage in. He said it drives you crazy, drives you to the arms of others. He didn't want to go, but you told him to get out. You're a strong black woman. You told him leave it, and he left. And now you're mad at him. You're calling him a sellout. Well, we'll be right back. Tim Alexander, keeping it real. Sharpton, right after this. Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. We're talking to Tim Alexander, and we're talking about his movie now that came out of the clip, Tired Black Men. We're talking to Barbara in Seattle. Barbara, you were saying you have, 4 sons, 3 sons?
4 sons.
4 sons and only one married an African-American woman.
Only one, and she is Ethiopian. She's from Ethiopia.
Wow.
And, you know, as I said, Reverend Al, I raised my children. I'm a mixed person, and I grew up in the Black Panther Party in Oakland. My first 3 children went to school there. My brother was the first one on Berkeley campus shouting, "Burn your draft cards." So I've come through a lot of civil rights. And I've raised my children to believe the African blood was the first blood, and everybody has that blood in them. So you're connecting to your ancestors no matter who you marry. And black women do have an anger. I hear some say it's from slavery. Some say it's from a bad parent. I had a bad dad. I was beaten. I was abused by other brothers. But I decided that they were crazy and I was okay, and I wasn't going to carry that anger into life. Nothing should make you so angry that you judge everyone by your past circumstances. The black women I encounter, even here in Seattle, have that chip on their shoulder about black men. And when you say to them, then walk away, marry another breed. No, I like black men. Well, you just want to marry them to torture them? You want to get back at them for something? What is it? They don't have an answer. I think it's more than the angry black woman at black men. I think it's just anger. And they think their partners are strong enough to take it, figure them out, and help them with their anger. And the black man is looking to be nurtured the way his mom nurtured him, and he's not getting that from some of the black women. I think this is going to be a good movie. I think it's going to be an eye-opener. I think black women are going to have to learn to bury the past and find the future. If black women are going to have a place in history, as all women will, because by attrition women are coming up, they're going to have to put this aside. It's in the workplace. It's at the school teachers when they go to school for their children. It's everywhere. And it is coming out on the black man. My son.
So you agree that black women are angry, and a lot of this is black women's anger and
I think it's the anger fostered through the grandmothers, the mothers. You better be strong, or someone will mess over you. You better be strong. And
so you were not disappointed when your sons brought home other than a black woman to marry?
I could never I don't care if they brought home a Martian. That's their choice.
Right.
You know, you said that perfectly. I really appreciate your comments. It's almost like you've seen the movie. That is exactly the problem. And the younger women don't realize it, but as they become older, they start to see the error of their ways in their youth. They made bad choices. They're angry at the men that they picked because women accept and deny applications. If they're with the guy who's abusing them, unless the man raped them, they chose to be with that man. And sometimes they choose to stay there too long. But, you know, I really appreciate your words, and that is the spirit in which I made the movie, to help enlighten women that they need to really look at themselves introspectively and, you know, make a determination if they think their anger is a part of their problem in their relationships.
All right, let's go to Lisa in Georgia. Lisa, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton. Lisa?
Oh, Reverend Sharpton, how are you today?
I'm good, and you?
Good, and the gentleman's name is Tim?
Tim Alexander.
Mr. Alexander. I'm probably not going to be in popular demand. However, I am really glad that you're having this topic because I totally agree with the gentleman on the phone. And I agree with that because, and I don't really know what the problem is. I wish we could find out what the problem is. However, I am different because, and what I found that it's very hard to find a gentleman who can accept me because I'm not that angry black woman. And because I'm not that angry black woman, then something's wrong with me. I can't be real. And it's like, no.
So wait a minute, let me get this right. So you feel that black men, in your experience, have acted like something's wrong with you because you don't personify this angry black woman.
Right. And
okay.
So what I meet is the men who say, oh, you're too good to be true, because I'm not angry. And I know that you can have good, healthy relationships. And my motto is always, life is simple. People complicate it. Relationships are simple. We complicate those relationships by being angry and expecting things. And I just agree with everything you said. I mean, I made some points. I mean, I'm from Atlanta, so I already have the difficult task of finding out if I'm dating a him, a shim, or Jim. So that's my first problem. And then once you pass that, then you meet those gentlemen who are used to the angry black women, and the first thing they anticipate is that you're going to bring drama because that's what they're used to. And like I said, I don't know why women are going through this issue.
But you said that you in Atlanta and you already got a problem of dating him, Shim, or Jim.
Yeah. Like, you got to figure out which one it is. You know, we have one of the largest gay communities there are. So I'm saying him, Shim.
You're talking about the down low.
Right.
Or the
or
low
Jim.
Down.
Right. I don't know which one. You know, you have the women dressing like men, the men being women, and then you have the hoods. So, I mean, it's like you're already down 3 by the time you live here. And then when you do meet someone, they're expecting that angry black woman to show up. And it's like, she doesn't live here. So if that's what you need, then I'm not the one for you, because I'm not going to bring that element to the table. So I agree.
I got to take a break, Lisa, but Tim had 2 women. One woman agreed with you, another woman agreed with you, and she talking about she don't know what she getting in Atlanta. Somebody call Michael Bays and tell him Rev Mal is in his business. I might have to let him in my pulpit. He talk about the preacher. I'm talking about relationships. Eat your heart out, Michael Bays and Al Sharpton, keeping it real. We'll be right back after this. Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. We're talking to Tim Alexander about his new film, growing out of the clip Diary of a Tired Black Man. Let's take a couple more calls, Tim, and you're going to be with us a while. We're going to take some men, but let me get a couple more ladies in here. Let's go to Lana in Atlanta. Lana, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
Yes. Happy holidays, Reverend Sharpton.
Thank you.
Great. Just wanted to follow up with your guest speaker. First of all, not everybody is angry. Although we do live in times that can be angry times, not everybody is angry. You do have a lot of happy and peaceful people.
And that was
today.
never stated that everyone is angry. I do agree. Not everyone is angry. I absolutely agree.
Okay. First of all. Second of all, in terms of what kind of relationship did you have with your mother? Would you consider her to be an angry black woman?
I have a great relationship with my mother. My mother and father are still together.
Okay, that's wonderful. And thirdly, in terms of most marriages fail due to finances, not due to your race. Would you agree?
I can't say that I fully agree with that. I think nowadays so many couples get married, they last 1 to 2 years, and they're financially sound enough where, if anything, that may only be an excuse. Because when they get divorced, they're still broke.
Okay. So, but even if they are, if it's an interracial couple and their relationship or their marriage fail, what do you think would be the primary problem in a relationship such as that, other than finances?
Statistically, from what I found, the interracial couples have been outlasting the same race couples. Because when you're in an interracial couple, interracial relationship, you're going into it with an open mind because you don't have a preconceived notion of, oh, he's just like that Negro down the street, blah, blah, blah. You go in with the mind to say, okay, I know I have challenges from the outside. Before I start this fight, let me analyze this person because they came from a different background. There's a different sense of resolve, and they generally work harder to grow together.
And that's true. And unfortunately, though, when one spends too much time consuming into analyzing someone else than themselves, it's easy to play the blame game or the victim game and point at other people and say, well, they're the problem.
That's exactly.
Maybe a lot of times the problem could be within you, but it takes a strong person to admit that, I have some issues that I need to resolve. And once I resolve those, then maybe I can find the right mate for me, not because of someone's color. To me, it's unfortunate because it's almost like another form of racism within our own culture.
I agree 100%. And just for the record, I'm not dissing black women. I love black women. The women I'm involved with are black. The woman I'm involved with at the moment is black. What you said is exactly the problem. Women have circumvented responsibility for their role in why our relationships aren't working in a lot of cases. I contend that women are at least 50% of the problem. But women have been pointing the finger of blame at men, and everything is he did this, he did that, him, he. They never say, well, I did choose the wrong man. I did get involved with a thug, and he's mistreating me, so it was my choice to deal with him instead of the man who's in college working hard trying to make something with his future.
Now, Tim, let me ask you something. You said you were involved with a black woman. Now, have you ever dated other than black women?
Yes, I have.
What caused you to do that?
What caused me to do that is I believe that the world is an open place, and whatever works, works. I don't feel like anyone has entitlement to anyone just because of your ethnicity.
So it wasn't that you were looking for a white woman, it just happened?
If I get along with someone and I'm having a good time, then I am. Most of my life has definitely been black women. I prefer black women. If nothing else, I do want to be a married man and take care of my responsibilities as a husband. I can't say I'd be looking forward to being married to a 60-year-old white woman. We hold up better. If nothing else, black don't crack. And
let's go to Leah in Detroit. Leah? Hello?
I don't think it's totally fair for him to just, lump us together like that as black women. I like to find out what he did to make this lady so angry.
You want to know what I did?
There had to be something.
You want to know what I did?
Black women, we are nurturers. We take care of people, even in the slave days. We used to breastfeed the other people's children.
That's because they made you.
Well, we still did it now. Come on. Why are you on black women so hard? What happened?
Okay, I'll tell you what happened. I found this beautiful black woman. She was so beautiful. Her and her daughter, I relocated her from another state. I did everything in my power to finally show her a good life. And she put me through living hell. She didn't have to work. She didn't have to want for anything.
Something
I found. You asked me what.
Well, let him finish. I'm not going to cut you off, Leah. Let him finish telling the story. You relocated her and her child. You gave her everything, and then what happened?
I've been engaged 6 times. Never married. And people think that's so bizarre. You've been engaged 6 times. What's wrong with you? Nothing, actually, because they all want me back. I'm the one that left. I'm not saying I'm perfect, not by any stretch. But they weren't used to and didn't understand how to deal with a man who was trying to be everything they ever said they wanted in a man.
Well, the one that put you through hell, what did she do? You said you gave
her...
well,
let's see. Whenever she refused to, she wouldn't cook, and it's not... Okay, she had nothing to do. I had a very sizable house, gave her everything she wanted. All she did was cause me grief. I worked in my home. I was a fashion photographer. Every client that came over, she had to give me the 3rd degree. Have you ever slept with her? Well, how do I know? How do I know you're not lying? Just anything she can do. She made food that was very greasy and very salty. I mentioned, could you put a little less salt in it? That's how my grandmother made it. Don't tell me how to cook. You're lucky I'm even cooking. Whatever she can do to raise havoc. And she turned her daughter against me. It was just a constant fight.
You know what? You need to forgive her and move on with life.
I have.
No, you
and I
haven't.
have moved on with life. You asked me what happened. And because you asked me, I went and opened up an old wound.
Were you and her engaged?
We were engaged.
What happened to the other 5?
The other 5, I find that whoever tries the hardest in a relationship loses. Now, if I had been a very difficult to deal with man and putting a lot of stress and pressure on her, then I would have had the upper hand. But whenever you're trying to be giving and really gift a woman, they think you're weak. And they take advantage of it, and they think you're a punk. And it's not fair. I was raised with very high standards. I don't hit. I'm not going to abuse you. I'm not going to scream and holler at you. But that doesn't make me weak, because every other man you've dealt with has abused you mentally and physically. And women don't know how to turn off their frustration from the past when they deal with a man who is not like that.
Now, Tim, this show is Keeping It Real.
Yeah.
I got to ask you one real question.
What's
Just
the real
me and
question?
You've been engaged 6 times?
Mm-hmm.
Did you buy 6 different rings?
I
Or
sure
you
did.
took one ring through 6 women?
No, it was all 6
Answer
different
when
rings.
we come back. Keeping It Real. Sharpton. I had to ask. I'm from the hood.
I kept it real. They were fresh ones.
You bought 6 different rings?
6 different rings.
And didn't go marry either one of them?
I got a collection. You want to buy some used rings?
Oh, so you got all the rings. You got the rings back.
All except one.
Yeah, you still got a lot of brother in you. We'll be right back. Keeping It Real. Sharpton, right after this. Keeping It Real, Keeping It Real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. My guest, Tim Alexander, filmmaker, producer, did the clip Diary of a Tired Black Man. That's now a movie. We've been talking to some of the sisters. Let's let some of the brothers in on this dialogue, Brother Tim. Let's go to Gary in Atlanta. Gary, you're Keeping It Real with Al Sharpton.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, how you doing?
All right, and you?
And I heard the little script about the young ladies, how they mistreat, yada, yada, yada. To me, like you say, my parents brought me up in a very, I guess my standards were very high, but they brought me up to say, well, hey, you're going to be about something, and anybody that you deal with is going to be about something. In life, period. So the thing about it is, like what you were saying, what I heard in that script, I look forward to looking at the movie, but
well, you know what?
So far,
you can go online.
Okay.
The website is www.tiredblackman.com.
Okay.
And you can see the clip. And you can also, there's a message board, a forum. There are 17,000 posts in the forum. And you can hear men and women expressing their feelings about this issue.
Okay.
www.tiredblackman.com.
Thank you. May I say this right quick, then I'll be finished? The thing about it is, to me, a young lady, and I don't care who she is, what color she is, however, blah, blah, blah. To me, what constitutes a young lady being a young lady and a young man being a young man ain't got nothing to do with the body anatomy or anything like that. It's about responsibility and matureness. If you carry yourself and conduct yourself like a young lady, you will get that kind of courtesy and kind of respect. Like you said, a lot of these young ladies don't understand and don't know how to treat a black young man or men, period. So they come out with all this bitterness and angerness, and that's not the characteristics of a woman to me. That's a turn-off, not a turn-on.
Exactly.
So they equate that which they don't know, and they gravitate to that which they think they know, and they say, well, this is it. This is how you treat a man. I want a man that's yada, 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 and, he's going to fight and beat me up and curse me out and yada, yada, yada. And then they bring that, and they superimpose that on other people. And that's not, I'm not one who, I love women. I love women from all walks of life. But the thing I can't stand is the nasty attitude, because if I can't tell the difference between your attitude and driving behind a trash can, then something is wrong.
All right, Gary.
And trust me, God is not sitting up in heaven losing any sleep about what nationality somebody decides they want to date or marry. It ain't that serious. We're all his children.
Let's go to Vincent in Atlanta. Let's stay in Atlanta. Vincent, you're Keeping It Real.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, how you doing, Mr. Sharpton?
I'm all right.
Hey, Mr. Sharpton, if you hear a lot of noise, I'm a truck driver, and I'm inside a truck. I apologize for that.
Now, you ain't driving behind that trash that Gary was talking about, are you?
Oh, no, I'm not doing that. I'm in Atlanta. I'm actually from Miami. Hey, Mr. Sharpton, let me say this. First of all, black women have a right to be angry because we're failing them as black men. Every time you look around, you see white men beating us down, locking us up. We got cracked. We're getting caught with all types of negative stuff. So they have a right to be mad, okay? And second of all, we don't give them a lot to choose from. You know, some of us are not working. You know, we're not taking care of our kids. We're not doing the things that our father did and what they saw their father doing. And for me to say this, Mr. Sharpton, my wife's in the Air Force, and also she's a nurse. I make sure that when I leave home in the morning, she's smiling, and when I come home in the afternoon, I make sure that I bring her something to smile for, rather it be a paycheck or a rose. So now for your, I guess his name, Tim whatever, Thomas or whatever?
Tim Alexander.
Yeah, Tim Alexander. What needs to be said is if a black man tries, then a black woman has no right to be angry or to, you know, to be in an outrage.
But you said you
Can I say something interesting? Now let's look at a reality. There are many men who are not adequate. I absolutely agree. Now let's look at the reality. Most of these men were raised by their mother. Approximately 90% of the black children in this country do not grow up in a household with both of their biological parents. So when this woman made a choice to have a thug baby, or maybe wasn't a thug, but you know, these women are getting pregnant. Somebody told me about a 15-year-old that just had her third child. Somebody told me about a 16-year-old that has 5. I heard of a 9-year-old that has twins. When these children are making babies, they can't raise them. They don't have a real father. They didn't have a husband. They have a guy who was trying to have fun, and he impregnated them. And then he went on about his business to have more fun. So when these women make choices to let these men have sex with them without condoms and impregnate them, they're going to have a child they can't raise. And that's the reason the men are failing the women, because the women made bad choices.
Got to take a break. We'll be right back. Keeping it real, Sharpton, right after this. Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're talking to Tim Alexander, producer and director and writer, who did the the clip, Diary of a Tired Black Man. It's now a movie. Well, there's a whole lot of folk wanting to talk, and guess what? Tim said, bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. And guess what? I'm going to bring it on. Let's go to Franklin in Tacoma, Washington. Franklin, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions for Mr. Tim Alexander. I want to know, first of all, how many black women he's dated and how many white women he's dated, or other women that is, you know.
Well, you mean percentage-wise?
Percentage-wise.
All right.
And,
all right, that's your first question. I'm going to let you ask a second. Go ahead, Tim.
I'm 47 years old. Everyone I dated was black until probably my mid-30s. And as far as serious relationships, I've only had one serious relationship with a non-black woman. She was Japanese. Other than that, my serious relationships have been with black women.
So you had one serious relationship with other than black. But what in non-serious?
In the non-serious relationships, I live in Los Angeles, you know, in an integrated community in Studio City, and I've dated a number of different types of people, and I've found that generally dating people that are non-black, as much as it pains me to say it, is so much easier.
All right. Go ahead, Franklin. You got another question?
Yeah. You said it's easier to date people that are non-black?
For the most part, they don't hit you with a wall of their pre-existing frustration. But
I know there might be pre-existing frustration, but that doesn't mean, like, you know, every black woman has a pre-existing frustration.
You're absolutely right. Not everyone does.
I mean, you say you prefer black women, but your movie, I feel, almost contradicts that. So, I mean, if you prefer black women, then why are you making a movie that shows black women in, like, a bad light?
You've seen 3 minutes. When you see the rest of the movie, it will astonish you. It's not what you think.
Well, from that one clip, it seems that way. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything. I'm a young black guy from Tacoma, Washington, and I am confronted with a lot of, other women coming to me, wanting to date me, but I don't, just drop black women altogether for that,
And neither have I.
But I mean, if possible, maybe you could put another clip on there to show the different part of the movie, because that one clip.
But no, I'm interested in this thing, Tim, about why is it easier with women of other race? Why do you think it's easier?
Well, they culturally, different people have different attributes, and they don't come with anger first. They come in with an open mind, and they deal with you straight up as a person for what you do or what you don't do. They don't have a preset standard for how they deal with you. And, most crimes are interethnicity. If you're in Los Angeles, the Hispanic bad guys don't go and mess with the other guys. They deal within their own community. Most crime is black on black. Most crime is within the confines of the same race and same community.
Now,
so as people, relationship-wise, we do the same. There's an anger.
No, but I'm just asking. See, I've been You 47?
Yes.
I'm 52. I've been unmarried and married. I mean, I've dated all kind of women: light-skinned black women, dark-skinned, short, fat, skinny. But I ain't never dated nobody but black women. So I don't know. I had a godfather named Joe Medlin. He said, if you ever see me with a white woman, I'm holding her for the police. Now, I'm not necessarily that bad, but I just have never had an interest. But I'm not saying that people can't love and respect who they want. I'm just talking about my life, and you're giving your life. And I don't think we condemn people for their life. I think people go by what they believe and what works for them.
Yeah.
And that's me.
Yeah.
That's why I was curious. I'm not saying it in a condemning way, and if I wanted to condemn it, I would say that, but I'm not saying it in a condemning way. I'm just saying out of curiosity, why do you find it easier? Do you think it's because of their bearing or their upbringing or because of your predisposition toward them?
Here's a simple experiment. I challenge all men to try this experiment. Walk down the street on the same day, decide to say hello to 20 black women, then say hello to 20 white women, and you give me a number of how many responses you get. Most cases, the black women won't even look at you. They won't answer. They won't smile. They'll look offended like you almost tried to rape them. The white women, in most cases, if you do it in a general way and not a funny kind of a way, they'll generally respond. And I've gotten 20,000 emails, and men have said that.
Angeles, right?
In general, men have said that across the country. They've been sending me emails and saying when they try to talk to a black woman, she acts like, we have an anger that's inside of our race against each other.
And I'm not belittling your point, but Khalil's out there. If Khalil went outside this studio and walked down the block,
Khalil, go do it and then come back and let us know what happened.
Go speak to 20 black women, and he speaks to 20 white women.
And tell us,
when you get to the 8th white woman, call me from the precinct, and I'll get a lawyer to come get you out. Because that's what happened to you in New York. Is by the 8th white woman, you'll be in jail for assault. Let's go back to the phone. Let's go to Howard in
I'm
Detroit.
from L.A.
That's why I said it's according to where you at. I would not suggest you walk up down parts of New York speaking to 20 white women.
They say the same in the South, though.
Yeah, that's true. Let's go to Howard, Detroit.
Good afternoon to you and your guests, and I want to thank you for having this young man on there because he, to me, just emphasizes what mental genocide is all about. Number one, you get a lot of these young brothers who really don't know their history, and if they know their history, they haven't experienced it. Now, any black man who gets on the air and makes blanket statements about what black women are all about, and they're negative like that, really has a problem. And I've seen so many people like that. If I had a son like this gentleman, if a son, period, and I told my sons when they were growing up, you marry a white woman, and I will disown you. And I told them why. A white man had no problem raping black women, and that is why they've done it. They did it for so long that now you're seeing the effects of it. You got more black women now trying to look white. I mean, this is your mental genocide, and you don't seem to be able to relate to this. Not only black women, but all of us, that it has affected us. So I think we should go to the education system, and one of the first things that we should tell our young boys especially, you got the best women in the world. You don't have to go anyplace else. When you make babies, you don't want anybody else's genes, especially white people, going through you, and tell them what these people did to us as a people.
So you told your sons if they married a white woman, you deny
I would disown them.
You disown them?
I as sure as your name is Sharpton.
Well, my name is Sharpton. You know what? I'm going to talk about that one day. I'm going to let Tim respond. A lot of people want to talk, and it needs to be talked about. And Tim Alexander says, come on with it. He represents what he believes. I respect that. You don't have to agree with me. Just make sure you mean what you say and say what you mean. That's why we call it Keeping It Real. Be right back after this. Keeping It Real, Keeping It Real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're talking Tim Alexander, producer and writer. And first of all, Tim, I want you to be able to give us some website information and other stuff, but you wanted to respond to the last caller that we had.
I mean, the bottom line is, all of our blood bleeds red, and hatred, anger, racism, it's all made out of the same negativity. We need to be responsible for who we are as people and make responsible choices. And we need to stop policing each other and realize we have the freedom and we have the opportunity to all be our best person. And, so many times we want to impose our points of views about what someone should and shouldn't do on someone else. This is not a diss against black women. And actually that clip, when you see the movie, you realize it has nothing to do with the white woman at all. It's about the anger that a lot of black women fester. And I say most black women. Most is anything over 51%. Most black women have a bit of anger that they take into relationships and give to the wrong person.
You have a website and appearances coming up. Let me get that out the way because I'm going to open up the phones again. And I want you to be able to.
The website is www.tiredblackman.com. I've been traveling across the country. I just left Atlanta and Washington, D.C. That's where I picked up a call in Atlanta. It was 17 degrees in Atlanta. Anyway, now I'm here in New York, and I just left my man Tayon, Monty Holland. He has this collection called Tayon, makes the most incredible suits. You guys should check him out. The man's amazing. And he was hooking me up with some custom suits, and now I'm floating around New York trying to bring attention. I appreciate Reverend Sharpton having me on, and I'm trying to find a place to screen the film. If you go to my website, my phone number's there. I'll even give it to you on the air. 818 area code 487-1350. If you're mad about it, call me. I'll talk to you about it one-on-one. If you want me to screen the film, I have the film. I got a projector. I got speakers. I just need a room to show it. 818-487-1350.
All right, let's take some calls. I'm going to let you do one more time at the end. Kim in Chicago. Kim, let's go to Kim. Go ahead, Kim.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Reverend Al. How are you?
I'm all right.
Oh, wow. This brother has really, upset me. Anyway, first of all, let me just say this. I'm not an angry black woman, okay? If I'm angry, it's for a reason. And angry is not my title. So for him to give most black women that title, it just bugs me. But I do have a couple of questions for him. First of all, Leah and the guy before me who said that he would never he would disown his sons if they married somebody white or outside the black race. Power to the people. That's exactly what I told my sons. Same thing. But Tim, when you were seriously dating this Japanese woman who was easier than black women, why didn't you marry her? That's one of my questions. Hold on. That's one of my questions. I have no. And then when you were doing your research, that you just talked to different white women and Asian women, did you talk to white men and Asian men? Because in my research here that I do, and I have a talk show here in Chicago, when I do my research, I talk to everyone. And when I talk to white men, Asian men, Spanish men, or whatever, they say the same thing about their women. They say that they're hard to get along with. They say the same thing that I hear black people saying about theirs. But the only difference is they don't go all on TV and on a radio station tearing their race down when they do it. That's what they stay there with their women. They stay there and they stay married to an Asian person. They stay there and they stay married to a white person, and they deal with it because at least they're with their own. And if we all bleed the same blood and we're all the same, that's the same thing with animals. Then why doesn't a lion mate with a tiger? Okay, you can answer my questions now. Also, I would like to invite you to be on my show to
I'll
air
be
your
glad
to
to
take
come on
it
your
to
show.
to run your show. I will let you
when you want me.
play your movie. Let's talk about it out there.
Okay.
Oh, no, I tell you what. I'll give you my information right
and
now.
you have I'll give you my phone number again.
Hold on, give it here.
818 487 1350.
1350.
Now,
818-487-1350.
Yeah. Now,
But
your
let
first
him answer
question.
your question. Y'all about to be the angry black host. Y'all making a date on my show. Go ahead.
Your first question is why didn't I marry the Asian woman?
Right,
Cultural
you said
differences.
She's an easier woman. What culture? Why'd you date her? There was a cultural difference just dating her.
You want me to answer the question,
Yeah,
or do you want to keep displaying your anger?
Oh, bro, you know it's hard.
Oh, you go ahead. You going to her show. I want to hear that. But go ahead.
Okay, as I was saying, the cultural differences weren't between me and her. It was between her and being in this country. She had just come from Japan. She couldn't stand it here. Our relationship was fine. She went back, And she said it was the worst mistake she made. She said because I was the best thing that had happened in her life.
Is she back in Japan now?
She's back in Japan, but she overstayed her visa and they wouldn't let her back in the country. Answer to question one. What was your second question?
Kim, your second question was what?
When you were doing your research, did you research white men, Asian men, Spanish men?
I researched everybody.
Really?
I researched people of every ethnicity, male, female, different ages. I've had 20,000 emails. I've read them all. I've gotten emails that says specifically, I'm a tired white man. I'm going through the same thing. Every white man I've showed this film said this film has nothing to do with black people. It's exactly the same for me. I showed it to Asian. I showed it to everyone. And I've even had a woman look at the film and say, I'm an angry white woman, and I don't ever want to act like that again. This movie has nothing to do with black and white. It has to do with anger. I'm a black man. I've dealt with primarily black women and intend to continue dealing with black women. I made this movie because I'm trying to help heal within the race of women I prefer to be with. This movie is to create a dialogue for change. If there's anything I can do before I leave this earth to help fix it by making us aware that both of us are the problem. But everything that's been in the media so far points toward the black men. The women point toward the black men. There's been very little publicly said on a big scale about black women's responsibility and why our relationships aren't working.
Let's go to Rudy in Atlanta. Rudy, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton. Rudy? Hello?
Hello, Brother Al?
Yes, sir.
Hey, how's it going? Pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you.
Brother Tim, I just want to congratulate you, man. It takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing. You know, I've been listening from the beginning of the show, and I agree with everything that you said. You haven't said anything wrong. First off, let me just say I'm a happily married man to a black woman. I'm a single child of a black woman. I have 3 black young daughters, you know, so I love my sisters. But I think that if sisters made better choices, that a lot of the things that they, a lot of the so-called things that they encounter from us black men, it would change. And I'd also like to see just a change in their agenda there. It seems to me like they put a lot of focus on making money and being independent, but none of them know how to wash their own clothes, never alone for a man, but themselves. They don't know how to boil water.
Rudy,
So,
you married to a black woman? Rudy?
yes, I am. I'm married to a black woman.
What is her first name?
Her name is Shonda.
Call Shonda, make sure you're still married. She might have been listening to the show. I'll be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton, right after this. Keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we are talking to Tim Alexander, the producer and director of The Diary of an Tired Black Man. Let's take some more calls. And don't forget, top of the hour, we're going into our Black Press Roundtable. Eleanor Tatum is in the bullpen, and she said we're going to talk a little about this. We're going to keep Tim over with her and the publishers. I want to know in their time. In fact, Ellie, come on in here now. Ellie's an angry black woman. She's out there mad now. She came in, her hair was looking like Donna Ross. Now it's like Don King. She's so mad. The hair's standing up like Don King. She's mad at you, Tim. You sit over there, Ellie. Put your fist down. Wait a minute. This ain't no boxing match. Sit over there. A lot of black women don't like to be called angry, Tim.
Can I say something? You know what's interesting? 90%, I say 85, close to the 90% of the women absolutely agree. In between that break, my phone has been blowing up, and I've had women calling saying, I support you. What can I do to help you get the message out? The problem is the ones that disagree make a lot of noise. Then they're very vocal. But most women agree because
now,
they've dealt with angry women
let me
too.
introduce you. Eleanor Tatum, sorry for being an angry black woman, and I'm being facetious saying
ABS.
She is the publisher of the New York Amsterdam News, and she is our co-host on Thursdays in the last hour. But I asked her to come in here early to help us field some of these calls, and she's also said we can continue this discussion in her hour. Tim wrote The Diary of an Angry Black Woman. Of a Tired Black Man, saying that ABS, Angry Black Women,
Angry Black Woman Syndrome, ABS,
has read a lot of black men
it's an epidemic
out of the race. What do you think, as a black woman?
The angry black women have run men out of the race.
to seek other options, white women, Asian women, and all that.
If I can clarify that, I wouldn't say it's about out of the race, out of their out of the relationship with them, wherever they end up. Another black woman,
but the premise
white woman.
is that based on how they were raised, sometimes single parent home and bad relationships, that most black women have an angry demeanor, angry kind of baggage.
The medical definition of syndrome is a repeated pattern of behavior, and they take the anger they got from their mother and watching their mother make mistakes, and they continue it through their life, and they're angry.
Well, you see, I come from a completely different perspective because my mother is white.
Right. That's why I wanted you part of this discussion.
And you know, quite frankly, for the last many years, I've dated a lot of white men, and I finally gave up on white men. I said, there's just no use for white men for me. And I started dating a black man who was really probably the first man I've actually dated. You know, I look at all those others, I'm like, I don't even know what they were.
We get this is what they call this in churches a breakthrough. So we get the reverse from Ellie. You dated a lot of white men, and were just now you've given up on white men.
I've completely.
Even though you're a product of a biracial marriage yourself, so you're not biased either way. And now you're dating a black man.
Yes.
And you won't go back. What is the old thing? If you go black, you won't go back.
You won't go back. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard a black woman say there are no good black men?
I've said it.
And most black women say that.
But you didn't have one until now.
And I didn't have, exactly.
Most
so you
black
just
women
bought the
say
cliche.
that.
Well, the fact is that there are a lot of fantastic black men out there, but
Thank
finding them is very difficult because you have to weed through a lot of other stuff.
I absolutely agree.
And the fact is that comes in any race, in any culture, that there are people out there that are suitable, that are fantastic, but it's a matter of finding them and finding the right places to find them. I mean, I've had a lot of black men step to me that there's no way I'd even give them the time of day. But there are a lot of other men that have done the same thing, and I wouldn't give them the time of day either.
I think that's honest. I mean,
That's fair.
I think that everybody ought to deal with people on a basis of who they are. But I don't think most people feel that way. I have 2 daughters. Dominique works right here on the show. Dominique can date whoever she wants. Now, if she decides to date somebody that's not black, that's her choice. She also better get a new name and call somebody else that. No, I'm not going to say that. But everybody has the right to choose what they choose. But I think there is a given reality that some of us have experiences that I don't know that we can just dismiss that easily, Tim, in terms of the history of where we are. Well, let's go back to the phones. Ellie, you staying in here. Michelle in Atlanta. I mean, we got a lot of calls. Michelle, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
I would like to say to begin with, I'm not an angry black female or angry female at all. I'm very peaceful, and I like to just really be chilled out. So coming from that perspective, I wanted to say that I believe in the law of attraction. Is anyone familiar with the law of attraction?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then for you, Tim, I would say in your situation, and probably for everyone that's not getting what they're wanting, you're attracting what you resonate.
So, wait a minute, the law of attraction is what? Tell everybody what the law of attraction is. You attract what you give out, in essence, right?
Opposite and positive, positive attracts positive, meaning that if you have a positive attitude, you attract positive people. You have a negative attitude, you attract negative
So
people.
you saying, Michelle, that if he attracts angry black women, that's him?
His core. Or something that he relates to. I'm not saying. It would be better yet to say that if you desire a positive woman or a woman that's not angry, one that's much more peaceful, then say, I desire that, rather than say, I don't want no more angry women. I don't want any more angry women. You're so hurt, I think, that your energy is just emanating that. It's just radiating that, and that's what comes to you.
Well, you've been engaged 6 times and never got down the aisle.
And also the choices that people make. People make bad choices. And it's not a racial thing, as everyone knows. It's not a racial thing. You make bad choices. And it would be easy to just dismiss those choices you've made and the pain that came from them, but we can't. So, and you need to be patient. Men need to be patient just as women. Women generally have more patience than men do. So it kind of hurts my feelings as a black woman to hear you in particular say that, we're so angry. No one has a right to be angry. No one no one desires to be angry. Let me change that. No one desires to be angry. People are angry because something happened. So in your relationship, and I would say to anyone else, when did that person that you started dating become angry? Because when you first met them, you weren't.
All right. This film is about taking responsibility. So often we make bad choices. So often we don't see the signs of impending doom. One thing I had to learn and confront was my own choice, my own decisions and choices. And I decided to choose a different type of woman that's more peaceful. I now am dealing with very peaceful women. I had to change my values, and so do women. They have to change their values about the men they pick.
Taking a break, we'll be back. Tim Alexander staying over with our Black News Roundtable. Eleanor Tatum in You and I and her guest, 1-877-532-5797. We're going to keep talking about this with your guests. I wonder how interracial dating is doing in their town, Ellie. We're going to talk about it and a lot more. Keeping it real, Sharpton. I'll be right back. Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're in our Black Press Roundtable weekly forum. And my co-host, Dr. Eleanor Tatum, publisher of the New York Amsterdam News. We are in studio. We've been talking with Tim Alexander, as you know, Ellie, because you joined us last segment, about Tim Alexander and the film he's got out, Tired Black Men, the relationship with black men and women. And we're going to pull some of your panel into this. We're going to keep discussing some of this and other issues. So why don't you introduce your guests, Ellie?
Well, we have got an extra guest today because when we told one of the editors at the Buckeye Review in Ohio what we were talking about, he decided he wanted to join with us. So we've got from the Buckeye Review Mike McNair, who's the publisher, and we've got Clarence Bowles, who is the editor. And then we've also got our good friend, Sonny Messiah Giles from the Houston Defender out in Houston, Texas. And welcome, everyone.
What's up? Thank you for having us on.
Yes, yes, yes.
And Sonny, are you with us too?
Yes, I'm with you, darling.
You know, we're talking about angry black women, Sonny. What do you think about that?
Angry black men. Oh, no, angry black women. You're right. That are forcing black men out of relationships.
Get angry at you.
I heard tired black men and angry black women. Did I miss something?
Well, the men are tired.
The men are tired of the angry black women, Sonny.
Tired of the drama.
Oh, okay. Coming in at this point, I don't think women are angry. I think to a certain degree they may be dissatisfied at times. But part of that is the support piece, I think. But it goes back to, I think, men are from, Mars, and women are from Venus. We're two different kinds of animals, and one of the things we've got to do is learn how to deal with each other and our differences.
I mean, Sonny is a very strong black woman who has been married for how many years?
21 years.
21 years. To the same brother?
Yes, to the same brother.
You have two children? You have two children, right?
Two grown sons, yeah.
And, I mean, you found one of the good ones that was out there, right?
Well, I think there are a lot of good ones out there. Because I have two young men who are sons, I think part of the thing is black women supporting their black men. And that support means both verbally and physically and emotionally. And that's where I think the disconnect may be coming in, the emotional support on both sides.
Yeah. Now, Mike.
Yeah.
You are married.
33 years.
33 years. You've got 3 or 4 children.
3 children.
And 1 girl and 2 boys?
2 girls, 1 boy.
Got it backwards. Sorry about that.
That's okay. My oldest is 30 years old. They're all college graduates, doing well. When I think about this whole subject, I love to see the film, but I'm thinking in terms of the fact that men and women, I'm not the same person I was when I got married in 1973 in Harlem, in New York City. I've grown, and my wife has too. We've kind of learned from each other, and what happens is, like Sonny says, if we don't support one another and learn from one another and grow, and growing always is painful. So if we can go through the pain of learning and growing, we can get to the good stuff, because it's easy to argue, fuss, and fight.
Now,
That's the easy part.
Do you cover any of these issues about black men, or the idea that some people think there are not enough eligible black men?
And before you answer that, I think that's an interesting point, Eleanor and Tim, because I wonder, do black newspapers and black media deal enough with these personal relationship issues? And they're obviously on people's mind. You know, every once in a while I'll do it on the show, and my show is mostly political, but I think that this is important. I mean, do we have open discussions like this in papers? Yes.
Reverend Sharpton, this is Clarence Bowles, the managing editor at the Buckeye Review in Youngstown, Ohio. And yes, we do cover this issue on a regular basis. In several of my editorials, I've written editorials about our sons, and this past week I wrote an editorial about fathers and daughters. And those relationships that develop into the type of relationship.
Now, see, I think that's good, Clarence, and I think that it's important that we cover this before we cover woman shoots man 5 times. I mean, I know we cover it then. I'm talking about before she gets her gun, we need to cover it.
You know, but then we look at things like, I don't know if a lot of you remember about Taye Diggs and Irina Menzel. Taye Diggs is married to a white woman who was on Broadway, and they got all of this hate mail because they were an interracial couple. And a lot of this hate mail was coming from blacks as well as whites about this interracial relationship.
Play Wicked.
Yes, she was in Wicked and he was in Rent. They actually met. They were both in Rent. They actually met on the set of Rent when it was off Broadway. And there we've got an issue where I think is where a lot of the angry black women come from. Because they see a very, very...
Well, Rent does have a lot to do with angry black women, but go ahead.
Reverend Al, if I may wade in on the racial issue, I'd like to ask the black female you had on earlier, some black women in your audience, is your racial consciousness diluted in an interracial relationship?
Now, that's a good question. That's a great question. I'm going to open that up to the audience. Is your racial consciousness diluted with an interracial relationship? Can you still be black or whatever if you in a racial relationship? Let's start that with Tim. When we take this break, we're going to come back. I was watching, I tell you what it brings to mind, Clarence. I was watching Unforgivable Black about Jack Johnson. Now, the defiance of Jack Johnson was he would go with white women.
He would go with many
at the same time. But that wasn't my point. But so it goes to the question, can you still have the supreme racial consciousness and still be an interracial? Then I met a lot of brothers in the revolutionary movement that said they were going to white women because it was reparations. Y'all figure that out over the break. I'll be right back. Keeping it real. Y'all know I'm not going to say anything. I keep it real. Sharpton, back right after this. Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're talking about tired black men and relationships with black women, and we've continued this into our weekly Black Press Roundtable with Dr. Eleanor Tatum of the New York Amsterdam News and her guest this week, Sonny Messiah Giles, and the two, and Sonny's from the Houston Defender, and the publisher, Mike McNair, and Clarence Bowles from the Buckeye Review in Ohio. And Clarence Telly had raised the question of, does an interracial relationship dilute your racial consciousness? Let me ask you that, Tim. You've been in an interracial relationship. Did it dilute your consciousness?
Absolutely not. I'm the same black thing I was before I was involved with someone who wasn't black. You know, the interesting thing is when we get in an interracial relationship, if we do produce children, we produce more black people. So if anything, we're eroding the others.
But does it make you not take positions, participate in things, do things that you would have done if your mate was black?
Not at all. And it becomes an education for the other person because they start to learn things, and the people around them that weren't necessarily as involved, they start to learn, tolerance, understanding, a broader perspective. Like,
Eleanor,
you're mixed.
Yes.
Are you black?
I'm black.
Okay. Black is black, and it doesn't change because you're involved with someone who isn't.
That cut and dry, though. I think some of the children of mixed marriages are sometimes not as clear as you are on their blackness.
They are. They're. It's better now. When we were children, yes, it was more difficult. Nowadays, it's not that uncommon. They're fine.
Rev. Sharpton.
Yeah.
Now, since I brought up the question, this is Clarence Bowles at the Buckeye Review. What my experience has been in observing interracial couples, and I have several friends who are, is that I get the impression from them that they feel because God has brought the two of them together, everything is all right now with the rest of the world.
I see.
So I do think your racial consciousness is diluted. Now,
I see. I have to disagree with you 100% because I think about the fact that my parents have been together since the early 60s. And I know that when Martin Luther King was assassinated, before my father even got home, my mother had his bags packed and him ready to go down south. And she helped fuel his consciousness and his passion to make change in this country. And so I do not see that at all.
And I've also noticed
that, though. Go ahead.
I've also noticed that surprisingly, a lot of interracial couples, their marriages and relationships have more longevity. I don't know why, but I've noticed it.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with the inner strength. Because of the external pressure that they receive, a lot of times that causes the bond internally to be stronger. Eleanor, I know your environment was one that had a lot of structure and your racial consciousness was embedded. But in some families that I'm familiar with, it's the complete opposite, where the kids are now, I'm not black, I'm not white. And I'm like, well, what are you then? And there's no racial consciousness.
No, it cuts both ways.
There's a push away from it. So.
But you've got that same thing when you've got...
delusion.
Well, you know, you've got the same thing when you've got young black kids that are growing up in all-white environments, even if they have two black parents.
Or young black children without a father. They're still confused. Confusion is confusion. Imbalance is imbalance.
But I'm talking more about the...
racial confusion.
Racial confusion where there are kids that grow up in all-white environments, do not have any black friends, and do not know their own histories because of the fact that they've not been exposed to it, even though the color of their skin says differently.
Let's get some people into the conversation. Let's go to the phones. Kevin in Atlanta has been holding on. Kevin, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
How you doing, Reverend Al? It's a pleasure to talk with you.
Pleasure
and I
to talk
just wanted to say, real quickly, I'm not in an interracial marriage. I'm married to a strong black woman, and I just wanted to say that I'm looking forward to seeing Tim's movie, and I would hope that instead of us jumping on the brother, just use it as something to look at and see where we fit, because we learn from stuff like that. And that's all I wanted to say.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Let's go to Darlene in Boston. Darlene, you keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
Good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I had called a little while ago because I was going to say one topic, and now, after all this conversation, I'm really not sure which way to head because I could comment on everything. But first, I would like to say I am not an angry black woman. I am a strong, independent black woman who owns her own, ironically, news magazine here in Boston. Okay?
But you're not angry now, because Tim said every time you hear a black woman say she's strong, that's a euphemism for angry.
See, that is the problem. Everyone considers when you are independent, you have an attitude. You are angry. No, it is survival. In order to survive, especially, and I know everybody who is on this phone knows because you're in the media, in order to survive in the media as a black woman, you have to be aggressive.
Now, Darlene, what is the name of your news magazine?
New England Informer.
The New England Informer.
I'm the only black news magazine in the state of Massachusetts.
You're the only black news magazine in the state of Massachusetts?
In the state of Massachusetts.
Well, you ought to be angry about that.
No, I'm not angry about that at all. But
well, y'all are the nicest people I've met in a long time.
Well, I mean, are there any black newspapers left in Massachusetts?
There's only one, and he considers himself my competitor, so... actually, I don't consider him my competitor, but he considers me his.
Because you're not angry.
No, I'm not
And
angry.
you're not competitive.
I actually believe that competition makes you strive harder.
I agree with that.
And looking at this situation that you all have been discussing as a media person, I do not mean to insult you, Tim, but I would just like to say that this is a very well-rehearsed, sensational script that you have to sell your movie, because it is very easy to take a certain group of people who are already being demeaned like black women and sensationalize off of it. And I think that's what you're doing by getting everybody riled up, calling up, angry at each other. You've got men and women walking around now arguing with each other about this subject.
So you think Tim's just sensationalizing this
to sell, his movie? Yes, I do.
So you don't think he got an Asian girl somewhere he stashed?
Oh, he may, and I think that's his choice.
Now, here's the interesting thing. Here's where that clip came from. It was never supposed to be a movie. I only did the clip to showcase the talent of 6 up-and-coming actors, the same 6 I used in the movie. Now, once I put the clip on the internet, people went berserk, and they literally demanded to see the rest of the movie. And I got 20,000 emails. I read each and every one of the emails before I shot the first frame of the movie, so I knew exactly what the people were saying. I made this movie custom order. Excuse my voice, I'm a little hoarse. I made this movie custom order to meet the people's needs. And when you see it, it is nothing like you think it is. It will astonish you how different it is from the original 3-minute clip that caused the uproar.
Well, I mean, my position is whether you use it to sell a movie or not. Obviously, it's an issue that needs to be discussed. And there wouldn't be a market for it if there was not a real issue there. Let's go to Janice in South Carolina. Janice, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton. Janice?
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, this is Denise.
Janice, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. First I want to say that how can, this man be tired of angry women if he's not dating them? And
I am dating them.
Oh, it sounded like he was dating more white or whatever, something outside of black race.
I love black women.
All right, hold on a minute, Janice. I'm going to let you come after the break. We'll be right back. Sonny Messiah Giles, Mike McNair, Clarence Bowles, Dr. Eleanor Tatum, Al Sharpton, and Tim Alexander. We'll be right back. Keeping it real after this. Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're talking about relationships and black men, tired black men, and black women. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Stacy in Atlanta.
Hi, Stacy.
Yes. This comment is for Tim Alexander.
Yes.
And I've been listening to the talk show for a while now, and there was 3 comments that kind of stuck out in my mind. One of them was referring to you made a comment about I guess it was a black mate of yours that would not cook or something like that.
Yes.
After coming home from a long day of work and so forth. And
After who coming home from a long day of work?
You.
Yes.
Yeah. And I can understand what you're saying, but it's kind of, sometimes it's hard for us to see the other point of view from a black woman perspective. And I'm not speaking for all black women. I try not to do that. I try to speak for myself and not generalize. But
can I help by giving you perspective? I'll tell you what she actually did. She actually would make food for her daughter and refuse to make me food.
Okay.
And tell me that if I want a sandwich, to fix it myself. So and I provided for her and her daughter, and we had a 3-level house up at the top of the hill in the Hollywood Hills, and I worked out of my home and provided everything she can possibly want, in not just material things, in a spiritual sense. I got her to go into church, and I did everything I could to try to be what women say they want a man to be.
Okay, I'm glad you made that clear, because when you said it over the radio station, it kind of sounded like it was more about as long as I'm taking care of you and doing this.
Oh no, not at all.
You should be doing that. And the other thing that why it stuck in my mind is because a lot of times, like another comment that you made, you referred to some brothers as thugs. Many of our brothers, in my opinion, majority of them are struggling because of past history and things like that. They don't have jobs. They can't. Not that they're not looking. Also, because of past history, they also behave in a certain manner. And when a black female goes to look for a black mate, when you have those high percentages of black women having attitudes, it also, you have to take in consideration the percentages of how instances that occurs, like how many brothers she might run into that may give her a bad vibe, you know. And it's not so much, it's actually so fault on both sides. It's not just like one you can just like.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen a black woman turn down a good, decent black man and end up popping up with a man that everyone could easily see was not a decent?
And I can relate to that.
And that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about.
I know that's what you're talking about,
Yeah.
but you have to also realize when that happens, it almost seems like it's a trick. It's almost like being in a class, right? A very difficult class. And all
But
this
why
stuff.
do they turn down the good men?
I'm getting ready to address that.
Okay.
When it's almost being like in a class where the subject is very difficult, and all the exams that you've had the whole term have been difficult, and the last exam is like they hand it to you and it looks very easy. You almost think that it's a trick question. You know, you almost think that, okay, there's something, you know, not quite right with this. You know, it feels like it's a trick question. And a lot of times students will actually get that question wrong because it seems that so easy they will not pick it. Because they think there's some kind of trick involved, and it sounds crazy, but a lot of times that's usually the case.
That's a very good point. I can take it to another level. Women subconsciously and sometimes consciously pick men that are inferior to them because when they have low self-esteem, if they pick a man that is inferior to them, they to themselves say, I know I have issues, but I'm better than you. I'm better than him. Women want to be perceived as the good one in the relationship.
Oh, wait a minute. I have.
All right, now let's go, Sonny.
Yes. I don't think it's a thing. The way you described it is incorrect, in my opinion.
Okay.
I think it speaks more to a self-hate that exists within our race, where we demean each other, and that there's always anger there because we never can reach the pinnacle of what our expectations are, or we expect less. Now, that may be where the sister picks a brother that has less going for him because it's less risk. But I don't think I think the root of it has to do with a self-hatred within our own community where we demean each other in an effort to keep each other down.
I can agree with that. We're saying the same thing.
I didn't like the way yours sounded.
Yeah, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way to hear him say something about people being superior or inferior to one another when we're really all the same. You may have higher or lower expectations in a relationship, but when you talk about pain, it always, in my opinion, there's always something else there besides the anger, that's the cause of the pain.
Okay, if I can rephrase it, a good, decent woman will pick a guy who has drug problems, alcohol problems. He's a gangbanger. He's in and out of jail. It makes a bunch of babies. He's irresponsible. He won't work. I know doctors and lawyers that have men who don't work, and they support them, buy them cars, buy them clothes. They pick a man who is not functioning as the type man that they should have as a positive role in their life.
Got to take a break. Coming back, Janice has been holding on since the last break. Got to get her in. We'll be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton after this. Keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we are talking to Tim Alexander. Been with us all day long about tired black men. And Eleanor Tatum in our Black Press Roundtable Hour. Dr. Tatum is published in Amsterdam News in New York, and your guests this week are
Sonny Messiah Giles from the Houston Defender, and Mike McNair and Clarence Bowles, both from the Buckeye Review in Youngstown, Ohio.
Now let's go to Janice in South Carolina. I've been holding her on. I don't want her to be an angry black woman at me. Janice?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, what I wanted to say is that I want to read a poem. It's very short. I think you'll like this poem, Mr. Sharpton.
Go ahead.
But first I want to say that I feel like men who go around claiming that black women are angry, I think they really need to step back and do a reality check, because what they're saying is that they're angry at their mothers, they're angry at their grandmothers for being raped and molested. They're angry at their female cousins, and they're angry at all the women, all the black women in the world that has to bear the greatest burden on their shoulder. I think that people, in general, I think that people should be able to be with whom they want to be with because God created us all. I don't think he made any mistakes as long as it's for real. But I do believe that society plays a major part since men like himself wants to say that we're angry and they're tired of us. I feel that society plays a major part in contributing to our so-called anger, et cetera, because they put white women on a pedestal. Black men feel like they don't know what the taste of love is like unless they've slept with a white woman. And black women, we're always having to be the strength in our families. We're the strength for our children. I've raised 3 black males myself, and my boys are just now becoming to understand just how strong of a mother I've been to them. And I think that to say that black women are angry is not really a fair game because it has been proven that black women have the lowest birth rate all over the world. And it's not due to the fact that we're talking about black women who are uneducated or black women who don't have money or come from a very good background. These are not just women from impoverished areas. These are women on all levels of education, doctorates, and so forth and so on. But we're having the lowest birth rate in all the world. Why is that? Because in general, we bear the greatest burden in the world. We got to, we're being compared against every ethnic group in the world. Men feel like that they have to go outside of their race to be with other women, to make themselves feel important.
Now, see, Janice brings my point out, Tim, and panel. I have a little opposite view. I consider any black woman, given the social and historic dynamics that we live with, I consider any American black woman that is not angry to be something wrong with her. I just don't want her angry at me. I think that our anger is misplaced. But I think any black woman that lives in the conditions that we live even today that's not angry, something wrong with her.
You know what? If I do something, you please be angry at me, but don't be angry at me because of what other men have done to you.
I agree. I think that there's misplaced anger. But I think that maybe it was Sonny or Clarence, somebody said, that I think that a lot of that is that we are taught to be angry at each other. We are taught to misappropriate our rage and anger. I mean, there's nothing more thankless in the world than be a black leader. I mean, because you got to fight your folk and fight your own. But I don't know how much of that anger of black women and black men is that self-hate we've got.
That's what my movie's about, Reverend Sharpton. That's exactly it. That's the point. We're taught to be angry.
This is part of what you were trying to tell Glenn Beck in your interview this past week that he didn't get.
Right.
That he didn't get. Now, Mr. Mike McNair is an ordained minister. My publisher is an ordained minister. And he's in a long-term marriage. I'm in a long-term marriage. We have learned by being in long-term relationships that you learn to be good to each other, you learn to be good. You learn to be good for each other, and you learn to be good with each other. You exchange consciousness as you grow and evolve together. My wife is a passive woman. I am an aggressive male. When I'm with her, I'm less aggressive. When she's with me, she's more aggressive because she has my support and I got her back.
Right.
We exchange these things, and for anybody to deny that doesn't take place racially, to me, is in denial. That consciousness produces a Barack Obama. You have a Kenyan father and a Kansas mother. You produce Barack Obama, but you have diluted something, whether the strength of Kenya or the strength of Kansas, but something has been diluted by that union. And dilution does not necessarily connotate regressive.
Now, are you saying there's a dilution, or are you saying that it's actually circumstance and the way he grew up rather than what his actual makeup is between his mother?
Circumstances trivializes it too much.
You really think so?
Circumstances adds a very trivial.
See, I think in his case, not only
it.
you have the birth thing growing up in Hawaii, the experience of most blacks is alien to that. I mean, when I was in Hawaii, very few blacks in Hawaii. In fact, I traveled with two guys were traveling with me, and we were about the three we saw. But so I don't know where circumstances come to bear. But I think that the point being that we as a people need to be honest about these kinds of situations, and I think that is what Clarence is talking about.
And using your example, why should there ever be a white male politically representing anybody from the state of Hawaii, given that that homogenous group of people that was invaded by Captain Cook?
Well, Clarence, you're right. You're right. Well, Tim, you kept the lines loaded. I hope you get a lot of calls. Give us your webpage again.
Excuse me, I'm sorry about my voice. My website is www.tiredblackman.com. When you go to that site, there's an online forum. It says talk about it, online forum. Please read it. You will find out what people are saying themselves about the problem. And my phone number is also there under contact me. And, I take every single phone call because I want to find the truth in this issue because I want to create a dialogue for change.
Thank you, Tim Alexander. Thank all of you that called in, listened, and called in and couldn't get through but hung in there with me anyway. I want to thank my executive producer, Fatih Muhammad, my associate producer, Khalil Bess, my technical engineer, the Deacon Gary Jeffries, and Sister Dominique Sharpton, production assistant. And remember, whatever you do, wherever you go, however you feel, tell somebody Reverend Al told you personally to keep it real. Keep it real. Keep it real. We'll be back tomorrow.